Charlotte Evans was a noble lady who was imprisoned after being accused of evil deeds. However, she ran away from her cell and ended up in the demon lord's territory. The story begins with a blonde woman running away from some knights. One of them stops the others from going forward, as it was where the cruel and merciless demon lord resided. Unfortunately, Charlotte didn't know, so she ended up going to the wrong side of town. She apologizes to someone named Natalia and falls off of a small cliff, right next to a house. The next morning, a guy who looked like he was born from 3 different parents was reading a newspaper, when he suddenly felt a presence nearby. All the animals had gathered around something, which was a damsel in distress in need of help. The man picks her up and realizes that she was running away from someone, like the one who was watching them from behind the tree. He quickly transports behind him and dodges his attack, recognizing his job and address from the emblem on his arm. When he asks him his reason for coming to the forest, he doesn't answer and calls out all of his buddies instead. The knight orders him hand the girl over if he wants to live, otherwise they won't show any mercy. However, the man refuses and freezes everyone in place with an ice attribute binding spell named Icebind. When he creates an orb that takes the clock off of his face, the knight recognizes him as the demon lord of the forest. Too bad for them. He uses a spell that hypnotizes them into thinking that Charlotte was killed by a monster and sends them off. When they come back to their senses, they won't remember this encounter. Later that day, D-Lord takes her back to his house, where he is surprised on how she is the criminal that the Neru's kingdom is looking for. Suddenly, she opens her eyes and the man gives a cup of whatever that is. At first she's confused, but answers his questions while drinking his liquid. He reads the newspaper about her out loud, but she denies it and starts crying. However, D-Lord can see if someone's lying or not by looking into their eyes, and her eyes are definitely that of a virgin. She's very happy that someone finally believes her and wipes off her tears. When he asks her the reason she was exiled, we see a flashback of when she was the fiancée of the second prince of the Neru's kingdom. During a ball, Prince Cecil gathers everyone's attention and calls out Charlotte, only to accuse her of the evil deeds that she didn't even commit. After calling off their engagement, he orders the guards to throw her in prison. Back to the present, D-Lord is convinced that she was framed and had done nothing wrong. When she was getting ready to leave, D-Lord asks her if she's good at cleaning, as he sucks at doing so. When Charlotte gives a positive response, he decides to give her the job of his housemaid. However, she's concerned that he'll get in trouble if she lives with him. In order to convince her, he introduces himself as Alan Crawford and makes up a fake story about how he was betrayed like her. Unfortunately, she still doesn't agree, so Alan uses his trump card, putting a death curse on himself that would kill him if she doesn't agree to work as his maid. That's how he convinced her to work for him in less than a minute. The scene changes to after she cleans the house, and it seems like she had a lot of experience in cleaning. Back when Alan met her, she had rough hands, meaning that she was treated more of a slave than a noble. When she asks him what she should do next, he tells her to do whatever she wants until dinner, either reading books in the library or doing gardening. She enters the library and gasps in amazement. Alan orders her to not disturb him as he has work to do. After she leaves in disappointment, he starts scribbling on the magic research papers like a child, calling it correction. Hours later, he gets up to turn on the light when he finds Charlotte on the floor. Confused, he asks her what she was doing. Charlotte was so bored that she was counting the grains on the floor. Alan takes her to the living room and asks her about her hobbies, which were practically doing nothing but working or getting bridal training, even in which she used to get yelled at for doing mistakes. Alan gets angry upon hearing this, as even he had fun when he used to attend his magic school, but Charlotte hasn't had anything good happen to her. This makes Alan decide to teach her all the naughty and pleasurable things in the world. Moments later, he arrives with a bunch of different things even though he had to sell his magical equipment for it. His goal is to turn her into someone that goes with their impulses and has no self-control. Her first lesson was eating and drinking to her heart's content, which she's obviously against due to being so innocent. Her family treated her well on the surface but didn't even feed her properly in reality. Alan's finally able to make her eat it with the help of the trick from before. She starts crying after taking one bite, as she had never been treated this well in her life. This reaction makes Alan decide to make her experience all the naughty things in that exist, until she can finally call herself the happiest person in the world. While they enjoy the rest of the night, someone watches them from deep inside the forest.